mental health, physical health, friendships, relationships. It's a lot.
How is your confidence right now at this moment?
Confidence is annoyingly high right now.
How do you get to that?
You can decide to be confident. All these things are so imaginary until they're real. I promise you, even if it's kind of falsified, it's still going to eventually at some point work.
And when it's low,
Yeah.
what happens there? What does that look like for you?
For me,
Kyle Pretzlaff is a Canadian entrepreneur and viral content creator, most known for advocating body neutrality and comfortability in the men's fashion space.
Body image is quite problematic for men.
Yeah.
And I don't think it gets talked about enough.
body positivity or like positivity in general is like fantastic. If you haven't, hell yeah. But I think like I really land on being just like neutral about most things.
What does that mean?
Not acceptance or complacency, because I think that's where a lot of people go, especially when it comes to body image. I was so like self-conscious of my body.
And it messes with you.
Yeah. Hating yourself until you're at a specific point is so silly. And then you're not enjoying the journey. You're doing it for a made up target, or you're doing it for someone else.
Body positivity is well-intentioned and good to a point, but I want to give you a devil's advocate argument that someone gave to me once. They said to me that we find it very interesting that the majority of you who watch and listen to this show aren't yet subscribed to our channels across Spotify, Apple, YouTube. It would mean the world to us if you can do us that small kindness. It allows us to continue to bring on amazing guests week after week and continue to provide you with amazing value and content. It's the only thing we'll ever ask of you. If you can hit that follow or subscribe button, it would mean the world to us. Thank you so much and enjoy the episode. Kyle, welcome to Gents Talk.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to have this conversation. You and I chatted very briefly over the phone. And one of the things that really stood out to me in our conversation was this theme of confidence. Because it's ever elusive. It comes in waves. When you feel it and when you have it, you're on cloud 9. And when it's gone, you feel like you're at the bottom of an ugly pit and you just can't pull yourself out of it.
What'd you call me?
I think the first thing I want to ask you is, how is your confidence right now at this moment?
Right now, like mid-decent. Honestly, like as silly as it is, my confidence is so weather dependent sometimes, especially in Toronto. Like when it's really hot and I'm sweaty and I'm wearing an ugly outfit because I can't like stay cool. It's too like, I'm just not a heat person.
Yeah.
So like this like gentle breeze that we have when I put on like a little, pants, great. Confidence is annoyingly high right now.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we're okay.
And when it's low,
Yeah.
what happens there? What does that look like for you?
It's a lot of internal for sure, because I think part of having a platform is showing up for people even when you're not feeling it. Even if it's kind of falsified, it's still finding the good parts and like doing it anyways, like showing up to work. Even if you kind of hate it, you're like, well, time to go to work, And so I think for me, a lot of confidence comes from like my mornings. Like my morning routines are the first thing to flop. I'm not a 4 a.m. hustler kind of morning routine, but like I'm making my coffee, I'm sitting outside the window, like I'm just like enjoying my morning versus immediate dread to start my day. And then it's like working up from there versus, kind of starting on a high. So I'm a morning person. I live by that. I'm not doing much, but like I'm I'm awake and happy and doing great.
Yeah.
But that's the really part that like the start of my day really like hurts, and I can tell when I'm not feeling it.
Yeah. How do you get yourself out of that?
A lot of it is like positive self-talk, but not in an affirmation way for me. Like I'm not a words person usually. But just sort of like, there's a couple cheesy things that I can think of like, literally who cares? It's like, there's a billion people in the world, however many there are, no one's really that attentive on me. If I walk out the street, there's so many things happening in Toronto. There's so many other things to look at than me on a bad day that I like have to just kind of like, hey, you're not that important. And like that for me is really helpful and powerful, because it's not idolizing myself to like a pillar that I have to stand on, or like platforming confidence, but it's like, whatever, like showing up is like fine.
Well, I think part of the appeal of what you do is the fact that even if you're presenting or creating a platform that encourages confidence and promotes confidence, the reality is there are days where you're just not confident, and that's okay, because that's part of the journey. It just happens. It just, you wake up one day and you're just not feeling it, but you pick yourself up and you just try and you keep going through the day, and then hope that you find it along the way, and you stack your wins where you can. And, we all go through the ebbs and flows of life ultimately.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like the other thing too is kind of maybe Barry's leading to something later, but like I think body positivity, or like positivity in general, is like fantastic. If you haven't, hell yeah. But I think like I really land on being just like neutral about most things in like perspective, but also just like life. Like, so those days where it's picking myself up, it's not picking myself up to a level where I'm like achieving greatness. It's like, hey, you hit the bar. That's great. Which is so much easier to meet yourself halfway on a bad day than it is to exceed on a terrible day. So it's just kind of, median's life a little bit more.
So when you say body neutrality, what does that mean?
For me, it would be not acceptance or complacency, because I think that's where a lot of people go, especially when it comes to body image. But it's the fact that like you could be on a huge fitness journey. Even the best people there, if you're talking fitness industry in general, there's like bulking, there's cutting, there's different waves and different seasons that people are in. And I think like hating yourself until you're at a specific point is so silly. And then you're not enjoying the journey. You're doing it for a made up target, or you're doing it for someone else, or you're doing it for something else's approval. Whereas like if you can just be content where you are, making progress, going on that journey, like that's so much more fun. And it's so much more easy to just like be okay with what you look like. It's like a mid haircut. I'm so mid haircut right now. I did a buzz cut like a month ago, and I used to have much longer hair. It's growing out. Like I can't just like hate it until it's longer. Like that's just part of growing hair, In like maybe a couple weeks, it'll give a nice little swoosh, and I like that. But like for now, it's like it's growing out a buzz cut, and like I can't just like wake up every day resenting my hair.
So I really like the way you frame that. How do you get to that? Is that a natural thing, or is that something that you've learned along your journey?
I would say both. For me, truly, like it wasn't always that way. It wasn't always the first thing I thought of, or it wasn't how I approached most of life. So I learned it somewhere, but it's not something that I can like attribute to a point in time, or like a specific action or a time when I like learned it. It just kind of fell into place, and those things start making sense, and you start realizing, hey, it's not so bad. You're onto something.
So what would be the earliest, what would I need to know about you to understand who you are?
That's a great question. I think like most people, there's so much history to everyone. There's so many places you come from. There's so many things you do. I think for myself, I'm really present right now in where I am, what I'm doing, who I am. But it was a very different person 4 years ago. It was a very different person 10 years ago. It was a very different person, growing up. I come from Edmonton-ish. I grew up kind of, it's not a small town, but it's small.
Edmonton?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a small town.
It's like small town vibes.
Yeah.
The vibes are small town, no matter how big it.
I was there for the Juno Awards a couple of years back, and I wanted to leave right away. Yeah. With all due respect to Edmonton.
Totally. I look back at it very fondly, but I'm not like, wow, I can't wait to
go to Edmonton.
Go back right now. Moved around a lot, grew up like non-religious, but have a lot of like religious ties in my life. I've had many careers that are so different from each other. And I think just like anyone else's stories compile you into the person you are. But I think there's so many things that lead you to where you are, and you have to like recognize them, accept them, but it doesn't necessarily define, who I am. So I think like for me right now, I'm pretty open, pretty like transparent to like what you see is what you get. So there's not much you're missing.
Well, when you say, this version of you that's sitting in front of me is very different from the version that existed, let's say 4 years ago.
Yeah.
What happened then?
4 years ago, tons of things. I was living in Lethbridge. We just came out of the pandemic. I was like 7 years deep in retail management and HR. Now I do social media in Toronto, whole different life. I was super regimented, also small town Alberta, smaller town. Living very much on my own. Not a lot of people. I moved around a lot. There's just so many little things that are so opposite to where I am now, especially like working in social media, being very public facing, opposed to being like quite private and like back end work. Whereas now everything I do is kind of like front. I see tons of people on the daily, which is so different for me, like socially and interaction wise. Like, there's not many things that I'm doing currently that I did 4 years ago,
Right.
based on
It's a completely different life.
and location and job and, everything. And it's kind of fun, but you miss some of those parts. Sometimes you're like, you look back at an old photo and you're like, what a silly time. Or, oh my gosh, that party. You're like, oh, I miss that person. But it's kind of like part of it.
Yeah. What was a foundational piece to who you are today?
I think overall, I'm a very lucky person, like family wise, career wise, because there's a lot of negative nuances that a lot of people have stacked against them that I experienced, but they turned out really good for me. I spit everywhere. I'm so sorry, everyone.
Oh, that's okay.
Things like I was adopted, which is fine. I grew up again in Edmonton. I moved out quite young and I lived on a Bible camp, which was also a very different experience as someone who is like bisexual, queer, young. So that was a whole different.
Were you aware of your sexuality when you were in the Bible camp?
Yeah. And again, like it is not everyone's experience. And I'm so lucky because the circumstances of the church I happened to be with that was a part of the camp, and also being in Alberta, which isn't generally super accepting, not being a part of like a community of people who were experiencing that same thing, turned out great. They were all chill with it. I wasn't hiding anything. Like it was just a bunch of really lucky little things.
Yeah.
Those are really like pivotal parts of me. And I think they're, important to the upbringing, but like for things that I can accept and be so privileged for that they turned out okay. Like, again, my family is beyond, they've never said anything negative or positive about my body, people I dated, like what I was doing for work. Like it was always just so like, and I think those little hurdles, the fact that I got to live them, but not be so negatively impacted by them is so incredibly lucky. And I'm so grateful for those, like,
Very lucky.
again, neutral experiences. So I think there's a lot of universe telling me to just like go with it.
Yeah. At what age did you find out that you were adopted?
Young. Like my parents never hid it. It was never like a secret. It wasn't like, you're our child. And then I grew up and I was like, hey, I look different. Like,
Right.
My first book I think I got from them was like you're adopted, which sounds in like a pleasant way. It was like
Sure.
it was like a little children's illustrated book on like being adopted.
Yeah.
It was, I remember the book. It's something really funny of like, it was like a kangaroo raising like a bird or something. I don't know. The whole like, the metaphor was there, something like that. So it was
Did
never
you
anything
understand
like,
it?
No, but I also don't think I didn't. I just didn't have the experience to be like, oh, that's what everyone else, I don't remember my birth. I don't think anyone does. So it's like,
yeah.
I didn't really miss out on that part other than, getting filled in later. It's like, hey, a couple years and then you came here instead of just like being in one place.
Did you ever try to find out what happened with your biological parents?
No.
How come?
I've thought about it now. More so, I guess backtracking, I never really needed to. Again, like, so lucky with my family. And also there's nothing, I look like my family for the most part in the fact that I'm like white, average height, there's like it's not like I was a clear standout in my family that I felt like I was missing a fundamental piece of me, or there's not like a culture I wasn't experiencing, or there wasn't those things that I could tangibly look at or like feel that I was lacking. Now I think about it almost from like a medical piece. It's like, you know, if I were to have kids, what diseases are in the family? What's the lineage from a going forward piece? But kind of one of those things, like, I don't know, like the back of my head isn't my business, you know? If my hair is funny, it's whatever. And I think like for whatever reason happened, like it turned out great. I'm happy. I'm not like missing something for me that I'm like, man, I wish I knew.
I was going to ask like, if there's any curiosity to have met them or ask them why, you know, why you're
which
giving
feels
up for
like dark
adoption.
and bizarre maybe too, like not to have that curiosity, but like, yeah, I'm so okay not knowing. And maybe it's a fear of it being better than what I have. Because like I didn't grow up rich or like exciting. Like I had a very like lower middle class family. Again, moving out to a Bible camp in, you know, outside of Edmonton, not like, so like could I have been like a celebrity? Could I have been a Nepo baby? You know, like is that the opportunity that I missed? Or is it, you know, there's also the 50 chance that it was probably not a great situation, probably came from something that wasn't ready, or someone who wasn't like able to, or so many things. And like if my friend, you know, had a kid and put them up for adoption, I wouldn't be like, why? They're just like, hey, you know, if someone puts up a kid for adoption, I'm like, there's probably something there. There's a reason. And like for them too, I'm like, I would like to reach out and be like, hey, I'm okay. You know, because I'm sure there's part of them that thinks about it, but also like,
you said that, you know, you've started to think about it more frequently now, and you tied it to, you know, like if you want to have kids. Is that top of mind for you?
I think it's around there. Like I'm in my 30s now, so it's definitely part of the kind of predetermined next step of life. It's like, yeah, do I want family? Do I want these things? I do, but also the world's so scary, man.
You're telling me.
You know, like I watched Euphoria. I don't know if I need to put a kid through that. So those are the things.
I haven't seen
like,
that yet.
It's fine. Great show. But like, it's tough. And like, I don't know if I'm the person to do it, to be totally honest. Like I would selfishly love that. I would love to have kids. I'd also love to do like, you know, like swing out your kid in a really sick outfit. I go to Kith, the store, and like their baby section is, it's good.
Oh,
and, like,
that's good to know.
It's, like get ready to spend some money. But like, there's so many parts of having a kid that I think it would be wonderful, and like a family like that. But also like, I don't know.
It's a chaos of the world that we live in today.
There's a lot. And I think we're also provided a really nice luxury in this day and age of, the pressures used to be so much younger and faster to have kids, have a family. Whereas now, like being 30 and not having those answers yet is kind of socially acceptable. And I think I'm going to ride that for now. You know, I think it's a great thing to make those choices until you're like,
I think my dad was 18 when I was born.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm 37 and I'm just like, I don't know if I'd be ready today.
Yeah, and I think there's
different
a luxury
times
in not wanting that to, like, to think about and be like, do I? Can I? Because I can't. Again, Alberta. I love all of you Alberta friends, but you know they're getting married at 18 or out of high school, and they have a kid. You know, they have 3 kids by 20, and I'm like, I truly can't even fathom what that.
3 kids by 20. Geez.
Yeah, maybe not that, but I don't know how it is.
Well, I know that I've had conversations with young parents who, on the one hand, they go, you know, we wanted to start a family young because we want to be young while our children are
absolutely,
you know, a little bit older. And we still want to be young when they're old enough to go do their own thing in life, where we could still go and enjoy life.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, yeah, that actually makes sense. But then on the flip side, I was like, would that have been better for me? And I'm like, well, it doesn't matter. It just didn't happen that way. The cards weren't dealt that way.
Totally. And like, if that was my case and that was my life, like, it would be such a different, I probably wouldn't be here having this conversation, but like, I could be doing so many other fulfilling things that I then would love versus.
What kind of father do you think you'd be?
I I'm a big rule person. I have a lot of anxiety in life about rules, and that's just, if there's like a wet floor sign, don't run, like I will not run. Like when my parents are like, don't run with, like I never once sped up at all when I walked with scissors, like those sort of things. And that carried into my life so much now that like, I think I would be pretty strict.
Yeah.
But like not in a totally aggressive way or an abrasive, but like, yeah, I would be the bad cop to the good cop in the house for sure. And that's
okay.
how it goes.
How's your mental health these days?
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's
a lot
been
going
better.
on.
Yeah. There's a lot of very real life happening in the world right now that makes, I think, just like existing on the daily for most people a little stressful. I think there's a lot of like, things put in our face that are very stressful. And then outside of that too, like economy is like a little hard. Things are really tough, especially like in anyone who runs a Canadian business, there was like big question marks for a while on products and goods and timelines. Like those things are hard.
The daily hustle of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So that's what you are essentially. Yeah. I mean,
I would put myself in that bucket for sure. So like, it's hard, but it's hard from, I think, a lot of external pieces, which again, grateful for at the moment. And feeling pretty like net neutral at the end of the day.
I want to go back to the body positivity piece here, because that was central to our first conversation. You talked a lot about, when you'd walk into stores and you wouldn't see things that necessarily fit you and made you feel like your best self. And there was this, stereotype of what being a bigger guy was like. Tell me about that process for you.
Yeah. I'm going to take it even back further too and talk a little bit about my platform and how it came to be, because I wasn't always bigger. In fact, like in my young teens, young adult, very tiny, very skinny, skinny jeans were in. I was in them. Like I was in them. And then really when things started to shift, like kind of, I guess mid-20s, which also isn't crazy for most people, like bodies change. You're kind of in like a different phase of life. And then the pandemic and all these things, like my body changed quite a bit. And yeah, from then it was quite a learning curve to figure out like what I'm doing. Going to stores became kind of non-existent for me in terms of shopping, especially at the time. There's some better things now. Again, thankful for the trend of oversized stuff, because something that didn't fit before is now skewed oversized to be stylish, which then fits me versus, back when it was more of a fitted style.
Yeah.
Not a chance. So it's tough when you go from having things really accessible to you to immediately less accessible. And also like the ugly versions of things. And plus size women know this much more than I do, where, you see a cute dress or you see it online and you're like, wow, that's really nice. And then there's like the plus size version and it has like ugly straps and a flower and then like frills. And it's like, it's not the same thing that people who aren't big get, which is frustrating because you're kind of like immediately othered even in something that's like made for you. So I think that was kind of the start of things for me. Is like, I've always been interested in fashion. It wasn't necessarily what I did, but it became something that I was more interested and more vocal about because I was, experiencing it. I was like, what is happening? And like, I'm not the biggest person in a room. I could be, I often am, both like height and size, but also like in this industry, it's such a specific body frame that usually does excel more so than other bodies or people who look like me, which is fine. And that's, any industry has those, leading factors, but it's hard being in a place where, you are kind of the leverage point of someone, understanding that there's unfairness in the industry, but there's also people who have it beyond more difficult than I do. So it's kind of a weird mouthpiece position where like I'm happy to talk, but I'm like, there is still accessibility for me. Absolutely. And like, I can get to be fashionable, whereas a lot of people just truly do not have that option.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's that stuck between being thankful for the ability to still do something, but also not taking away from the fact that you can't help noticing where there are gaps.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what would what's your earliest memory of realizing that your body was changing?
I think even like earlier, I've not been someone who fluctuates weight entirely, but I know like even in school too, like changing the changes was not for me. I was so like self-conscious of my body, and like it was not something that I wanted to do. And again, I was quite thinner at the time. Like I didn't have any additional weight that should incite that much fear into like changing or showing my body, but it was. And then I worked in retail at the time too. This would have been, time is so strange, maybe 10 years ago, maybe less, maybe 8. And even just starting to have to like buy some new clothes or work in, you're like, oh, I want a new outfit. And then suddenly you're like, there's much less options. Or you see someone with a great pair of pants, you're like, where's those pants from? And they're like, oh, it's from here. And you go there, you're like, well, guess that's not for me. Like you just kind of start, especially with a slow progression, like how I experienced body change. Yeah, it was sort of more noticeable. Whereas even like, when you're young and you get your first growth spurt, you might not realize until you're already at the end of your spurt. You're like, oh, like these things aren't fair. Like I'm so much taller. Whereas this was kind of a gradual, like, change.
Yeah. And I mean, I've noticed this more recently. More recently. I've noticed it more recently. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I get it. That was one of those like comma riddles.
Yeah,
where you're
exactly.
Like, ooh,
that body image is quite problematic for men. It's in fact a very big issue.
Yeah.
And I don't think it gets talked about enough.
No. And I think to possibly excuse this on like a huge tangent, it's not talked about in almost any way, in a like a positive way, in like a muscle way, in like a fat way, in any kind of way. It's just not talked about, which is really tough.
Why do you think that is?
I think I'm pulling straws from like a bigger conversation, but like I think sports is a really big one. And I can tell you that in sports, especially male sports, you win or you lose. That's kind of what you learn.
Very black and white.
Yeah. Whereas like female sports, you win, you lose, you participate, you made friends, you did teamwork. Like there's so many more celebrated pieces to that. I think we saw it recently in like tennis, where her name's escaping me, Naomi,
Osaka?
who was one of, yes, thank you so much. Lost, but like didn't lose good enough. Wasn't like a positive enough force to then thank her colleague. And like the expectation of her wasn't just to win or lose, it was to lose, but lose gracefully, and then have teamwork and build a network and look fashionable. Whereas men are win or lose. And I think that's really hard for that conversation to progress when it goes into everything in life. So you're either good enough or you're not good enough. And I think there's a lot of people, like I talked about earlier, if you're on a journey of any kind, appearance-wise, more muscle, less muscle, more weight, less weight, any of those things that people go through anytime they want to change their appearance, especially in like the gym, in sports, in weight class, for a role in acting, you're not good enough until you're at that point, which I think is so, again, there's so much middle ground to celebrate, to talk about, to learn from. And the fact that it's not good enough until you're at a point, I think is so hard. And people don't want to talk about it because it's not like, hey, there's a little bit more culture now, I think, on social media where it's like gym progress, but you sometimes see these people where it's a before and an after photo.
So they've already done.
They might be documenting the journey, but it might be hidden in the back reels, and then it's something, and then they're only posting the 2-year gap of before and after, or the like, I used to be this and it was terrible, now I'm this and I'm better. There wasn't like both are good,
Right.
You never see that. Even if it's, again, someone like, on a positive side too, someone who could be like obsessed with fitness, who then gains weight. They're not like, I was really great when I was fit and now I'm happy, because people have like diet culture and all these things. But there wasn't like, hey, this was also good because I was fit and I was working out and I was doing more things. Now I'm also happy for a different reason. And the same flips, where it's like, yeah, I wasn't as in shape. Now I'm more in shape, but there's still pros to both sides.
Yeah.
There's different things. And I think not enough middle ground is celebrated or wanted to be celebrated. You know, I think like back to win or lose, like you don't want a participation ribbon, but like, why not? Sometimes that's great.
Right.
But I think if you told someone like, I got a participation ribbon, you know, in your group of dudes, like you're going to get roasted. And I think that just leads into so many things like body image that you just don't talk about the middle ground and like the okay stuff.
Yeah. I want to give you a devil's advocate argument that someone gave to me once. They said to me that body positivity is well-intentioned and good to a point. Because if it gets to a point where you tell yourself, hey, I have to learn to be okay in my body, but essentially you don't put in any effort to actually get healthier, that's actually more dangerous for you.
Yeah.
And that there's a rise in, hey, let's be all body positive without actually encouraging people to get healthy. And it doesn't mean get super skinny and fit, but just move your body, like exercise,
100%.
Better sleep, better food, all that stuff. Just wanted to see where you landed on that particular argument.
I 100% agree, but then there's also the opposite side to that, whereas like it's also not healthy to see these people bring plain chicken breast to a wedding because they can't mentally unlock from the gym, so they can't form relationships, they can't have friends, they can't like, you're going to a wedding with your own pre-packed Tupperware. Do you know what I mean? Like that's
I've never
also
seen that.
Oh
my
it's
God.
there. But it's like, you know, like people, when you're meal prepping to a certain extreme, or you're also fit to a certain extreme, you're also not doing the other good stuff.
Yeah.
You're not
that's
taking
true.
time for you. You're not like celebrating little wins, which we know is so important, of like those little check-ins. And I think absolutely there's that side, but I also don't know many people who are on that extreme who say like, I'm not going to try, it's good enough. You know, like I don't know anyone who's fully done that. I think again, like we see those celebrating little wins of like, hey, I'm not as fit as I used to be, but I'm healthy. Like my doctor's like, you're
good.
okay.
Yeah.
You're okay. Or like, hey, lose some weight, but like your stuff looks good. But that's the same with anyone. It's like, hey, like don't drink and smoke. You'll get cancer when you're 60,
Right.
but you're 30. It's like, still improve those things. But just because you're celebrating, like, you know, I drink less, it's great.
Yeah.
But like if you drink any, that can still be good enough to celebrate and be like, hey, I drink less, you know? So I think to say like, hey, I'm actually happy where I'm at, isn't saying I'm never going to the gym. I'm not going fitness. I'm only eating cheeseburgers. But if you eat a cheeseburger, you're not going to cry about it, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where it leans. It's like, yes, that's an extreme, but I also don't really see many people there.
Yeah.
Same with the other side. Like you don't see anyone, you know, meal prepping, but I see that from gym people where they're like, there's this guy who's like a big fitness dude and he like, brought his own Tupperware to a wedding because he couldn't do the meal that someone paid for at a wedding. So like that's the opposite side too, is like, where do you balance mental health, physical health, friendships, relationships without saying definitively, this is the one thing you're doing wrong, you know?
I want to ask you about, you know, when you post this content online, and in particular, you do a lot of fashion focused content. So when you do that, you're basically showcasing that, you know, there are options for a bigger person to dress fashionably, look great, feel great, all those things. And it's encouraging, it's inspiring, it's motivating. What's the reception like?
Again, one of those things that I can be so thankful for, but I think it's because I don't have much of a stance when I post other than I'm doing this thing.
Yeah.
Whereas it's so common on the internet to be like, I'm this size and I can do it too. Whereas my content's not that.
Right.
So it kind of goes where it wants to go. It goes to people who are potentially my size, know some of my size, their partner's my size. You know, you're a blue collared worker, and then suddenly the wife is like, oh, that shirt's great. I could buy that for my husband. Whereas, you know, I could get way more views and way more engagement if I did say like a definitive statement of like, I'm this size and I'm doing fashion.
Why don't you?
I don't need it. I don't want to have that conversation started. You know, if someone doesn't feel that way from someone who doesn't see me as fashionable or healthy, that's great.
Right.
But like, I don't need to put myself in a place where I'm like hearing that or like asking for it, because that is what it is. It's like you're putting out these statements that are polarizing. In terms of anything can be polarizing. But if I'm just like, hey, I'm in fact wearing this to this event, if someone has something to negative say, it's kind of like, well, you're kind of an asshole for doing, you know. If you're like, oh, I wore this black shirt today, and someone's like, that's a terrible shirt, you're like, you didn't need to say that.
Yeah.
You know, like no one asked. Your shirt's great, by the way, just to, just to be clear. But it's like I'm putting them in a position where like I'm not asking, I'm not making a statement, I'm not like doing it. So if they're gonna say something out of the blue, it's like, well, that's shitty.
Yeah.
But like it's not something that I would way rather have a small group of people who just think I'm doing good stuff that they enjoy, that like makes them happy, that like helps them in some small capacity, than like a million people who have like strong opinions about me. That's not for me.
That's fair.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's easy to get caught down the rabbit hole of social media and the comment section and the algorithm and the views and chasing views. I've had a number of creators on this podcast talk about how they get lost in it sometimes.
Totally. And I think I see it a lot too with like a lot of comedians and stuff and people who do sketches or like street interviews. You know, you interview someone intense, you're like, well, I need to go interview more intense people. And then suddenly you're that person who interviews intense people. Like,
and that's the content.
You can get stuck in these like, view holes so fast. And like the things that are usually generating views and engagement aren't the nice things, or like it's the stuff that is polarizing or like really, you know, conversational, which is great. And if you love it, I'm so proud of you. For those people who do, it's not my life.
No. What would you say to someone who's watching this, listening to this, who is struggling with their confidence, trying to express themselves through their clothes? Because clothes, they tell a big story about who we are.
Absolutely.
Right? Like the way we dress, the way we carry ourselves. I remember the very first time I ever wore a suit. I looked like I didn't belong in that suit because of my facial reaction and the way I carried myself and my shoulders being slumped and kind of like retreating inward. Yeah. And then I've worn suits where I'm like, and I don't have to say a word. Yeah, exactly. So clothes have an incredible power of making you feel amazing. Yeah. But there are people who, you know, a little shy, maybe a little hesitant. You know, they want to express themselves, but they don't want to be judged. What would you say to them? Yeah.
I think like kind of really back to my early on statements is like confidence is so made up. All these things are so imaginary until they're real. So like I promise you can decide to be confident, even if it's not every day or all the time, but in little circumstances, you'd be like, no, this is good. And you have to like kind of filter out those things that the little voice in your head or the someone who once said you don't look good in this color or whatever, because those are all opinions that are valid for someone's life experience, but they don't have to be valid for yours. So like confidence is made up, so like decide to have it, and that's going to eventually at some point work, because it's a made up thing that you can totally make up yourself. And then I think for fashion too, there's things like you're saying, the suit, where it's like you might want to try something, or you're like, oh, I think I'd love to try this style. And that could be just a learning curve of experience. Like maybe it's just not for you. And not in any way that like you can wear whatever you want. But like for me, even like I would love to do like a really cool high-waisted pant, but I just do not like the way they look on me. That's just it. It's not anything to do with my body. It's not my like vibe. I just like a lower pant. And that's totally okay. So even if it's not super on trend, it's not super, you know, maybe what you wanted to look at, but like try things on and see what you just like. Because if you can try things on and you can find something you like, it might surprise you.
Yeah.
Or it might like, you know, like you said, the suit, you just know when it's right. When it's right, you're like,
You just feel it.
This is
Yeah.
it. And like, I think the same can go for something as silly as a sweater, as a color, like you don't know until you put it on
Yeah.
and you'll be like, whoa. And also on the same side, like if it makes you sad, take it off. It's a piece of fabric. And like, if that's going to ruin your day, then like, we got to start on square one.
Well,
you
we've
know?
all been there where it's like you're wearing something and you're uncomfortable in
Yes.
it, and you're pulling and tugging at it and trying to adjust it, and now you're self-conscious, and you walk into a room and someone looks your way and you're like, oh my God, they've seen it, they spotted it, and meanwhile they're just like accidentally glanced in your direction.
Totally.
But you're in your head at that point,
Yeah.
and it messes with you.
It's hard. And it is like it's tough, especially if you're in a point where you want to try new things, but you haven't yet. That like exploratory phase, I think if anything, is really hard. There's like imposter syndrome, there's real life, there's your thoughts on how it should go. It always turns out better in your head usually when you're like, oh, I'm going to go do this thing. And then you do it and you're like,
No.
sure. You know, you got to roll with it. And I think it's so silly how these things can be so impactful, but it is at the end of the day, like a piece of fabric.
No.
And so if you're like, hey, this made me feel bad, super valid. It's super valid to feel uncomfortable. It's super valid to like not enjoy that moment. But then like you have to be able to rationalize with yourself, like, okay, maybe it wasn't this shirt. So like maybe you don't like the fabric. Maybe you don't like the cut. Maybe it's the neck. Maybe it's and then like keep the things you liked about it, but find a new piece
Yeah.
and then try it. Because that trial and error is what's going to go places. All the best dressed celebrities have a terrible photo of them early on, you know, even like the Kim Kardashians of the world. Like you look back at some of those photos where she's like with Paris Hilton at the club in the early paparazzi photos, and you're like, whoa, you know, like you have to, even the best people try. And it's the same with sports. I don't know why I'm making sports analogies. I'm so not a sports guy, but like you can't be the best on day one. You're not going to, and like, so if you're trying to be the most fashionable person ever, start small, or like start learning, start trying things. Like there's nothing wrong with having a bad fashion moment, or if you are uncomfortable, like that's okay. But you might also be uncomfortable from, you know, you might love the look of it, but maybe you're like, oh, this fabric's not for me. It made me like not feel good,
Right.
which is then like all you can do is learn from it. And that's so huge to have like a moment where you're like, oh, I don't like this, and then don't do it again.
Yeah. No,
But you have
trial,
so
trial and
many-
error.
Yeah.
Yeah. You use the magic words on this podcast, imposter syndrome. I've talked a lot about that a lot
Yeah.
here. When was the last time you struggled with imposter syndrome?
Oh, all the time. I think as confident as I am, and as much as I know things, I get put in these rooms of people sometimes that are in so different industry or different expertise, or like with a product that I don't understand. I think with the social media career and like the Toronto community of like content creators and influencers and entrepreneurs, it's like we're assumed to be all peers by these brands. And like,
It's not true
oh,
at
you
all.
do content. Come to this thing and be in a room together and learn about this thing. So there's so many times where it's like, I'll get invited to a beauty event. Like I have tons of beauty background, so I know my stuff in beauty. I know what I'm talking about from like a retail piece, a cosmetics piece, like a science piece. But I still go to these rooms and everyone's like, you know, a 20-year-old girl who's stunning, who got ready since like 2 p.m. And I rolled up like out of it. And I was like, oh, shoot. Like, I'm not going to get the work. I'm not going to get the and that goes for a lot of, like for fashion events too, where like you go to a dinner, it's like, oh, I didn't dress properly for this. Or like everyone here knows what they're doing, or they're all magazine people, or they're all, you know, you're always in rooms of people who are doing more, better, you know, than you are. And I think a lot of times I walk into those rooms and I'm like, damn.
It's a tough feeling. I mean, I know it well too.
Yeah.
I struggle with imposter syndrome a lot, where I'm like, man, I'm like, how did I even end up in this room? Like, who did I fool along the way?
who's pranking me right now that invited me here?
All right, jigs up. Like I'm here.
Yeah.
But it's rough because once the imposter syndrome creeps in, it's that obnoxious roommate upstairs in your head that's just yapping away at you, telling you like, hey, you don't really belong here. Yeah. You're at a place, to your point, like, hey, you're not going to get this deal. You're not going to do that. That person has it way better than you do. Look, I mean, for content creators, I've had this conversation so many times. It's like you're judged by how many followers you have. That is your measure of worth.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not really a fair measure. I've seen creators with like 5,000 followers who to a brand new creator is a lot.
Absolutely.
Right? And they've got so much creativity and they're so talented, and for whatever reason the algorithms don't bless them. And then you've got creators with just really big followings because they tapped into a trend at the right moment and popped off. But it's such a hit or miss.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't reward the actual value that you provide and the creativity behind you.
Yeah, and not to like open back doors into things we're not talking about, but it's also like the pay discrepancy between those things can be any. The person with 5K could be making 10 times that of the person with 1 million followers because of where the brand sees their value, where they're trying to target, what they're trying to do, what the like. There's so many things that go into it, but like, yeah, the really public facing number is the one that is what people see or judge, or what like makes people feel a certain way, is that like follower number.
Yeah, absolutely. And I noticed it in conversations with brands, that there is starting to be a bit of a shift towards focusing less on the volume of followers and more focus on the quality of the content, which I think is great, because I'm personally speaking tired of going on my Instagram and seeing commercials by the, especially around the holidays. And it's like, during the holidays, I like to drink this or I like to eat that. And I'm like, no, you don't. Like, who the hell are you fooling? No one's believing this.
Yeah.
It's obviously scripted. You look uncomfortable. Your eyes are telling us all we need to know.
Yeah.
But I also, on the other hand, I understand it. That's how you get paid. That's how you make your living.
Yeah.
And it's a rough place to be in, but I think content creation has to some degree been over glamorized.
For sure.
Like, I don't think it's as easy as people think it is. I know it's not as easy as people think it is. And it's not all roses, and especially in our current economic conditions.
Yes.
Right? Like, it's hard to make a living as a content creator.
For sure. It's tough to be perceived all the time, and it's tough to like put yourself in a position where you're being perceived all the time. And that's even a harder choice to make something that you know is going to get negative feedback. And some people just like live their life. They wake up and like, well, time to make people mad. And that is so hard. And I think that's one of the nice things that in the content creator world, I'm going to get like very disagreed with, but like, I'm so happy Canada does not pay us from like a platform piece, because then you don't have to make as terrible of content to get paid. Whereas in the US, if you're a creator fund and you want to get 10 million views, I could get 10 million views.
You just got to say something stupid.
I can say something stupid. I could fall down the stairs. I could go to a street interview and ask like a terrible question. Like, those things are easy to do, but to do it well is hard. And it is nice to see people who work hard, make good content, do good things, or like are really talented, able to get rewarded in a system that doesn't necessarily like reward that on default.
What's the hardest part of being a content creator for you?
I think back to perception. It is, I'll also preface this by saying like, absolutely content is hard. It's really tough. It's draining. It's a long time on your phone. You're always on, but it's also much easier than what I used to do. So like little blessings of,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a fun job, but it doesn't always, there's still so much negative and so much hard work and like way more hours that go into this versus a job I can clock out of.
Right.
So
can't really disconnect the brain.
No. And then even like you can't disconnect people from assuming they know you. So like I'm by no means that famous or that, anything, but you have a video that goes, popular in Toronto or somewhere, and then you get recognized, and suddenly like you're having a night out with your friends and someone's like, I know you. And then suddenly you feel watched, and suddenly you feel like, on your toes, or then you're like, oh, I'm at work now. I'm not at my friend's party. I'm working.
And then the people that you're trying to build a relationship with that you were just having
Yeah.
a great time with, suddenly they're like,
Totally.
whoa. It kind of ruins the mood a little bit.
It's a really strange place to be in. And again, like grateful for anyone who would come up and say hi and like care enough. Or like a bunch of my friends are obviously in content too. And so like we go and like, you know, we get recognized here, especially if you're like Toronto centric content and then you make Toronto content and then you go to somewhere in Toronto, you're going to get recognized or something. So some, even if it's nice or something, like, oh, I saw your video. But then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm working.
Yeah.
So that is really like, it takes a lot of the fun out of it, to be honest, especially for someone like me who doesn't make content to be exciting or to be a little bit more edgy or talking again, like, yeah, it's strange. And for me, that really like messes with me, to be honest, of like being perceived when I didn't think I would be.
How do you disconnect? Can you? Do you?
I love going to like a cottage. I love a hike. We do an annual friends hike with our friends. We do like, you know, a good long weekend, like a Thursday to Monday, climb a mountain or two, no phones, no like forced disconnection is my favorite kind of connection where it's like, oh, out of reception.
I did a trip to Banff I think about 2 years ago now.
Love.
And no reception up on the mountains.
It's great.
We had to take a helicopter to get to the top of one of the mountains. It was beautiful. It was stunning. Mountains. It's like when you look out, I got off the helicopter and I look out into the distance and I'm like, I'm looking at a screensaver. Like that's how beautiful it is. But it's no unreal. Phone, like your phone is with you, but you're disconnected. And it was incredible. It was liberating. It was freeing because I'm like, I'm going to spend the next 3-4 hours on top of this mountain, enjoying this beautiful scenery. And I'm not distracted by my phone pinging, reminding me that I got an email or that somebody sent me a DM or whatever nonsense, or that, you know, there's a new promo code on Uber. Like none of that nonsense. It's all out.
So like, I love that. I love a disconnect when I have to.
Yeah.
I have nothing on my phone either. Like I have no notifications, no sounds.
Oh, nice.
No, nothing. My app, like the products are there, like the apps are there, the stuff, but like.
But you have to intentionally go into them.
Yeah. Which I go in too much anyway. So it's not even, like I never miss anything. Like within a minute I see the DM in it. But the idea is I see it less.
Yeah. I've started doing this thing where on weekends, I try to be on my phone in general as little as possible, where I may have it on me, but I'll put it on Do Not Disturb. Or even when I go to sleep now, it's on Do Not Disturb. Yeah. Because just that vibration triggers my brain. If I'm like in the middle of falling asleep and I hear that vibration and I'm like, oh, I wonder what that could be.
Totally.
Maybe it's that message I've been waiting for, that email I've been waiting for. And then my brain is alert. So I've been trying to consciously disconnect from all of that.
I bought myself an alarm clock for that reason, because now I just turn off my phone.
It's a hack.
Entirely. Because I was like, you know, you have to keep it on for the alarm or the whatever to wake up. Right. And I was like, get that out of here.
Oh, absolutely.
It's nice.
So I want to ask one more question here.
Yeah.
Knowing everything you know today, if you can go back in time to that version of you 4 years ago, let's say, what piece of advice would you say to yourself that you needed to hear then about this journey that you're going to be on?
I think any phase further than what I'm doing now would simply just to be like, you can do things that you don't know about. And I'm not talking in like a superpower exponential way or like a, you know, you're stronger mentally than you think you are, but in truly like, I feel like even though I grew up in the modern world with technology, with things, like I grew up quite sheltered, quite simple. If I wasn't like looking at it, I didn't know it existed. And I think that goes for things like careers. Like I did not know you could be on social media for a career until I moved here.
Right.
And things just kind of took off in a way that was so, again, the universe was like throwing things my way and I was like, okay, I'll try it. I was not doing social media like that before I moved here and before something took off. And like, I think just like, if there's something in your mind, it probably exists, which is great, because if it already exists, you can do it.
Right.
And if it doesn't, you can make it up. But I'm not an inventor. I'm not like pushing those kind of boundaries, but you could. So even though like, you know, younger self didn't know you could have a career in social media, didn't know you didn't have to work 9 to 5, didn't know you could just like love your body and like vibe with it, didn't know you could choose not to have kids and a family, and like everyone's gonna kind of have those same thoughts and feelings. I just didn't even assume the world existed like that. So I think just like get out of your own head, learn some new things, and like if you think about it, probably someone else is already doing it, so just like try it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, my friend.
Of course.
This was wonderful.
Thanks for chatting.
And thank you for spreading body positivity, especially for the gents out there.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of us that are very self-conscious, and we won't say it, but we're feeling it.
Yeah.
And seeing another guy have this conversation openly, whether through verbal or just through content, whatever, you know, it moves that conversation forward, and it destigmatizes it one little bit at a time. So thank you for doing what you're doing.
Of course, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody.